God.
Oh my
It's
God.
been so long.
I don't even, yeah. What are we even doing here? Was it some sort of broadcast? Some sort of
Something like that. Something like that.
podcast?
Podcast? Is that what we're doing here? Is that what
I
we've been
missed
doing?
it so much. Hey guys.
We're back.
Yeah, we're back. Thanks for listening to that half-assed little skit we did for you. About forgetting what this podcast was. It was a nice week off. It was a crazy week off, but it was a nice week off. I moved to New York City.
I was gonna say, yeah. Look at the new digs.
Yeah, on YouTube you can see a little bit of the new digs. There's my TV. There's that painting I did. That's a light. That's a bed. That's as much as you're probably gonna see. Don't be so nosy.
How was the move?
Oh, it was crazy. It was crazy. The day before I was set to drive my sweet butt out to New York, there was like a COVID sort of mishap in the place where I was going to be living. So I was like, oh, I can't live there immediately. Like I need to figure some stuff out. So my brother went with me. It was amazing. And we drove together, got our masks on, put some gloves on, everything. Cause I'm vaccinated now, but my full 2 weeks of like being as immune as possible had not lapsed yet. So we just dropped stuff up at this apartment. And then we drove over to drop the car off at the rental place where we were dropping it off. And we thought it was a 24 hours because it was connected to LaGuardia, but we couldn't drop it off. So then we just had to drive back to the hotel. Got in at like 2 a.m., drove for 14 hours, got in at 2 a.m., found parking, laid up in the hotel, had to wake up at 9 a.m. again to get the car out because that's when they were going to start ticketing.
Yeah.
Dropped the car off, took a train back to the hotel and slept. Slept. Out.
It's never easy, is it?
No. It was never easy. It's always like there's something else, So I stayed in the hotel with my brother for a little bit, and then a good friend of mine who's already vaccinated was like, hey, you can stay on my couch until that whole situation is done. So then I was on the couch for a while, and now I finally just got into this place yesterday and like just did some serious designing, serious constructing, figuring out what's best. I'm still trying to figure some stuff out, but I like it so far. But I miss you.
Miss you too, bud. But I'm glad everything worked out in some regard.
In some regard. What else happened?
Well,
did we talk about your birthday?
Oh,
No, we talked about your birthday.
we talked about my birthday. We talked about
It's been so long.
It has been so long. It's been so long since we've seen each other, or at least via screen.
I know, your face is so beautiful.
Oh, thank you, bud. I got myself all done up for you. I even did my hair.
Thanks, man. Well, what's new with you? What's going on in your life?
Not a crazy ton. Just, doing the normal grind of the day to day, trying to get outside, get some fresh air. It's beautiful in Chicago. What's the weather like in New York right now?
Oh, it's really beautiful. But I heard last week it was like 70 over here, and someone let me know that it was snowing in Chicago while it was 70 with us.
Yep. But guess what? It's 70 degrees here now.
Oh, there you go.
So
there you go.
It's not the Midwest without rapid changes in temperatures and climate.
How do you guys? I think that the weather like that, like it absolutely messes with my skin and with like, like I feel like I get so dry, like my nose, my allergies. I don't understand how people live in Chicago during the season changes like that anymore, because I already have such a hard time. This would be the perfect place for like a product placement.
Do you have dry skin?
A vino.
Oh God, if we could get a vino to sponsor this podcast.
Can we talk about someone who actually who messaged us about
Sure.
About product placement?
We did get contacted for that.
With a couple, which is like really kind of cool. But one of them I'm really excited about. Let me see. Smooth My Balls.
Yep. Smooth My Balls.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the next great idea, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a razor for men, or yeah, or male identifying, of course.
Yes, of course. We have to.
I think it's just for balls in particular. What do you think, Mitch? Should we?
I feel like we should.
Should we scrap everything?
We can't say no to really anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So we should at least explore.
I'm sure
right?
their product's good. I hope they don't listen to this and are like, "Hey, wait a minute." Oh no, Mitch, we ruined our one shot.
Oh. I would just relish the opportunity to do a promo for Smooth My Balls every week. Mm-hmm. I would relish that.
You know what men relish?
What did they relish?
The chance to take a little spa day, grab my Smooth My Balls buzzer razor. What are we gonna do with that?
I was so enthralled. I was there. I was with you. I was with you every second of the way there.
What do they expect us to say about it?
Good clean cut.
We're so punk rock right now. We're just like absolutely destroying the system by like just making fun of them. I'm sure the product's really good.
If that's what you have, good for you.
Good for you.
Good for you. Speaking of you being vaccinated, which one did you get?
I got yeah, I was really excited to get vaccinated because it was going to put me at ease.
Right.
And then I got the Johnson & Johnson the day before they shut it down.
Oh my God. How do you feel? Are you a woman between 18 and 48?
I am the ultra rare 1 in a million. Look, honestly, like I get it. I think that it's frustrating because they did the right thing by shutting it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe. But, our news cycle is so ridiculously, what's the word? Sensationalized.
Yeah.
Right? That they take something where it's like, okay, there was a very minuscule issue, so we're going to take it off the market to research it. And it turns into, oh my gosh, vaccines are, super dangerous. And now people don't want to get vaccinated because of this like small issue. And people were saying, well, it was such a bad idea for them to, take it off the market at all. But that's not, no, well, but because of people would say, because people are losing their faith in vaccinations because they took it off for a little bit, Well, it's not their fault. It's not their fault for being safe and then having it being reported as like their being safe does not equal it is dangerous, right?
Yeah.
They're being safe and we should wait to see what the outcome of their taking this time off to study it is. Like not immediately go to the worst case scenario.
And
it's
also,
ridiculous.
While we're waiting, go get one of the other twos that are extremely reliable in there.
Yeah.
And available.
Yeah.
You might just have to schedule one extra little prick right there.
Right.
That's all. That's the only difference. It's
And
the
if
only
especially
difference.
like if you're a man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go get the Johnson and Johnson, right? Because we're still limited in vaccinations.
Yeah.
So,
But
like,
I just recently got my second dose this last week,
yay!
so I'm feeling good.
Congratulations.
Felt like crap for 5 hours,
Mm-hmm.
but then I was
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I
Then
was
I
the
was
same.
okay.
Yeah,
Drink some
and you
Gatorade.
look amazing.
Thank you.
You look, you're levitating actually right now. What'd you get?
I got that Pfizer, baby.
Yep, Pfizer. Yep. That's the Cadillac.
It's the Cadillac. And the Johnson and Johnson's that well vodka at the bar.
I was gonna say it's the Mercury Sable.
there,
As
there.
in, as in, they don't even sell them anymore.
Yep, yep. That's
Mm-hmm.
good. That was a good one. Oh,
Nah,
but
Mercury Sable's back on the market, baby.
bah!
Gosh, what a wild time we're in, man. What a wild time. You know what's really great about New York though,
Mm.
because it's really busy. Um, really busy. That said, I feel safer here than I did in the Chicagoland suburbs
Oh
in
yeah.
terms of mask usage. Yes, I'm on a subway and I'm like, okay, everyone's keeping distant, everyone's wearing a mask, taking it easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to be in an area where they're actually understanding the real danger that's there. Not to say that Chicago is bad, but
Right.
there were people. There were people for sure. What you doing on there?
I'm actually looking up something because I wanted to talk about our upcoming guest here.
Okay, yeah, that's actually important.
Our guest this week, after our week hiatus,
Mm-hmm.
is Martin Yousif Zebari.
Yay! Oh, yay!
And Martin is a friend of mine that I met out in Illinois State University
Mm-hmm.
in the acting program.
Mm-hmm.
He lived a floor below me,
Mm-hmm.
and he was one of probably one of the first 4 or 5 friends I made on
Mm.
campus.
I love those
And
people that are like,
right,
because he was older than you, right?
he's only a year older than me. Yeah.
But he had been there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
I love
sure.
those people that are like, oh, hey, welcome, you're cool. Like who initially like search for friends, because I'm not one of those people, and I'm working on it. Where I want to be the first person to shake your hand and be like, hey, welcome. Let's be. I'll show you around. I'll do. I'll be your friend, and put you at ease in front. While you're meeting all these new people, you can count on me.
Absolutely. But yeah, he's the super warm, super talented guy.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time of this interview, he had a play that was being streamed through the Goodman Theatre here in Chicago.
The legendary Goodman, absolutely legendary Goodman.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They had a nice program where new playwrights, and we definitely get into it in the interview, but the new playwrights could submit plays, and the Goodman was basically given the juice to display it to the world. And it was this very beautiful play called Layalina.
Layalina,
Layalina. Mm-hmm.
maybe
And
Layalina. Sorry, Martin, if it's pronounced incorrectly. But
he pronounces it correctly on the interview, so
yes,
that's all
yes.
that's important. We interviewed him while that was going up, and it is a beautiful play.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very big. He's a very big champion of his culture,
Mm-hmm.
of his community,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just a really cool dude.
Yeah, it was talking to him, especially for me, who I had never met him before, um, and I knew very limited things about him, except for I had to watch this play. Not well, I had to, but also I was very excited to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he was just I was so impressed with the way that he kind of focused his whole life, like his around his his circle of of friends and family and community, and every single decision that he made was in the process of benefiting his circle, his community.
Mm-hmm.
It was so cool to hear about his decision making. And there is one thing, right, that we'll get into, but he mentions the fact of if he lives his life a certain way, he used very like oppressive forces, I think, these oppressive forces that like kind of work against him.
Mm-hmm.
And if he lives his life a certain way, adhering to his belief of his, of supporting community and growing community, he feels better about himself, and yeah, I'm really kind of butchering the whole thought of it, but yeah, he's just is very impressive and inspiring to hear about the way that he makes decisions as an artist,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And when we were talking to him off air,
Mm-hmm.
he was saying about a really exciting opportunity
Mm-hmm.
that was coming up. And
Oh, can we announce that?
since that interview, he posted it on his Facebook.
Oh, perfect.
The play that we have been talking about was selected
Mm-hmm.
to be in National Queer Theater's Criminal Queerness Festival in New York City.
Yay! I'm gonna be there.
Yes, John is going to be there for sure.
Yeah.
But this is super exciting, and it's going to be workshopped, and it's going to be staged and performed
Mm-hmm.
in person,
Oh my gosh.
socially distanced and everything outside in late June. At least this is coming from his Facebook page.
Oh.
But yes, we were going to keep it under wraps, but
Mm-hmm.
with the nature of this
Yeah.
delay, and I'm very happy to say that this is really cool and very deserving to this guy and the work he's been doing. So
Wow.
I think the best thing to do is just play this interview and let you guys get
Yeah.
into the mind of Martin.
Yep. The mind of Martin. All right, guys, enjoy.
Welcome
Welcome
back to the
back
interview
to
section
the
of
interview
Two-Person
section.
Echo Chamber.
Two-person echo chamber.
Today we have a good friend of mine from school, Martin Yousif Zebari, who has a beautiful play on the Goodman Theatre's website as we're currently speaking right now, called Layalina. Layalina, right? Am I saying that wrong?
Layalina.
Layalina. Okay.
Yeah.
Making sure we get it right.
Yeah.
But
thank
first
you.
off, thank you so much for coming on. How's your quarantine pandemic life living?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Here with y'all. It's wild. My quarantine life has been wild. It's actually like, I mean, it feels silly to say that it's changed everything because I'm sure it has for everyone. But it's been very busy, which I was not expecting. I've never been so unemployed in my life. But that's kind of been working out in a weird way. Not really like financially, but it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's
That's
opened
wonderful.
my eyes. How have y'all been? How is your quarantine?
Oh
Well,
no.
we started a podcast.
You're opening it up.
Exactly.
Well,
We're here.
let me pull out my notes from what happened yesterday. No, it's been fine, right? Like everyone finds something, someone like to latch on
Yeah.
to like create like the best space you can for yourself in this like very, very unique time, right?
Absolutely.
For you, it seemed like you latched right on to the Goodman and the Goodman latched right back, right? Like, how is the process of coming up with starting this Future Labs virtual reading, which is the Goodman Theater's this is the first play that the Goodman did, correct? With the
Yeah.
which I mean,
it's the first Future Labs, and it was the first reading. Yeah.
that's gotta be,
Yeah.
it's gotta be hard to like always be having to change, especially right now. I was just talking to a friend who is a part of managing their own theater company, and they were saying they just finally figured out how to move forward with what they, what their goals are with their plays in the future, with just employing themselves, employing other artists just now. And that's about 11 months of trying to really figure out next steps. Were you a part of like the Goodman's like process, since it was the first one? Did they let you in on what they were thinking? Because the Goodman is a very well established theater company.
Yeah, I not really is the short answer.
Sure.
I'm not really I'm not on staff with the Goodman, so I'm not like there behind the scenes and how like how this I guess new play initiative was born out of the pandemic. But I mean, I would say that the quarantine, like, it was less of me attaching to the Goodman and more of me attaching myself to my writing and like to start taking that seriously, which I hadn't done before.
Right.
And I think so in that it just kind of worked out timing wise that the Goodman was coming out with with this like no deadline new play initiative. Like there was no deadline for them to submit your work, because it's kind of like they're picking plays on a rolling basis for the year. And it just so happened to be that they picked Layalina to be the first one. And yeah, so it was just kind of timing wise that it just happened to be. And I'm very honored that my first full-length play had a reading at the Goodman. It's been amazing, and we were able to give it the resources and institutional support that it kind of needed. And especially as a early career writer, no one knows my work, so it was just really great, and I feel honored for that. But yeah, I definitely think that this pandemic is the reason Future Labs is happening. It's a POC centered and POC run initiative. So I know that that's been a big it's like a big inciting reason for the start of it, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So since you were saying you attached yourself to your writing, and this is kind of you were saying you're very young in this process of learning about what type of writer you are, maybe about how
Absolutely.
you best work with different formats. Was this play started and completed during the pandemic, or was this something that you were like holding on to for a while, kind of feeling out, and then finally committed to? And what was like when you finally decided to do that switch, like what do you think pushed you to do it? I mean, besides the lack of anything to do, like, was there an emotional pull to like, this would make me happy, or this would make me successful, or
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I first had the idea to write a play about a SWANA family. And a lot of people aren't used to that acronym, but Southwest Asian North African. So that kind of like the dynamics of a SWANA family in the US was always something that was in my brain. It was probably like the first idea that I ever had in writing. But when I thought of it, it was like 5 years ago. I had just graduated college, and I was in this not great acting experience. Just so that I'm not naming names, but it was a long process, and it wasn't.
Did you
amazing.
get the contract where you signed that you have to name all the names? Because actually, I
haven't signed that.
No. Oh, okay.
I didn't sign it. I'm still having my lawyers look over it just before I do. But
You know what? I hate when people do that because it immediately just takes all the power away from us.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's more fun this way. We're just guessing.
True.
Um,
Sorry, but you were talking about this idea for this play that was started when you were just getting out of college and just
yeah, I
getting out
just
of
gotten out of college. I was in not that great of a theatrical experience, and I
Mhm.
found myself really feeling like unheard and unvalued, and
Mm.
like I was like another piece in the game. And this, what's crazy is that this opportunity was supposed to make me want to become an actor after college. Like, yeah, I'm going in full force. And
Mhm.
although it did give me some really amazing resources and opportunities out of it,
Mhm.
mostly like interpersonally and like self-esteem wise, I felt like maybe this is actually not what I'm supposed to be doing. So I started thinking about writing, but then I just don't think I was ready to do it. I had kept tossing it back. It'll be next year, it'll be next year, or next year, next year.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit. I had another really not amazing kind of like interpersonal stuff with friends and community members, and so I kind of felt just feeling like the lowest I felt. And I also had COVID at the time,
Ooh.
like at the start of the pandemic, so it was not a great couple months. And then a friend of mine sent me this the Jackalope Theater's Playwrights Lab,
Mhm.
which is led by Calamity West, an incredible playwright. And so um, I just was like, let me just do it. And it was like the last submission date, and I submitted an application and got in and
Mhm.
started like a week later. And so we were supposed to develop completely new plays in that workshop. It couldn't have been plays that you had already been working on. And since this idea wasn't really a play, it was just in my head. Um, I just picked that play, developed it
Yeah.
over the period of the over the course of the 2 months. It was like a weekly meeting over 2 months for eight
Yeah.
weeks, and then things just kind of like that was November of 2020. I believe in December I submitted it to like the Goodman thing and a couple other things. Um, and yeah, and then like a month later after that, like early
Yeah.
January, I got contacted from the Goodman saying they had picked Layalina to be
It's
chosen.
beautiful.
So yeah, my writing career is literally as of like 6 months ago.
Sure. It's like
Started
it's
about
crazy.
6 months ago.
It's crazy that like a time in which like people would say opportunities are nowhere, you kind of found yourself one at that moment. And I was
Yeah.
thinking about what you were saying before about this play that you kind of kept kicking down the road for later.
Hmm.
What made you decide, like, aside from this one opportunity, but like what made you decide right now to pick that topic out of, I'm assuming this isn't the first like of anything you've written, because that'd be actually miraculous and we'd be talking to, yeah, so I mean, right, but I mean
It's the first full-length play I've
the
written.
first full length, but
Yeah,
you've
I've
you've
written
done.
one 10-minute play by the same title
Mhm.
about three of the characters, but
Yeah.
it is not that play anymore. I mean, even when I wrote
Okay.
that 10-minute play in 2017, like I just I wasn't ready to write what this play needed. I
Mm-hmm.
feel
Yeah.
like as a
Yeah.
human and as an artist and as an adult, like I wasn't ready until those couple of months that I actually like wrote it in,
Right.
which
Do you think like this story and this what we have now was always somewhere there, and you like you said, it just took you the couple years to really just find it?
yes, well, it's kind of there and it isn't there, right? It's like I've been, I think, as a young SWANA queer person,
Mhm.
there aren't, I can probably count on my hand the plays that I have seen where I felt represented,
Mm-hmm.
um, as even just a brown person. And then you add queer to that, and it's like the list dwindles.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'm definitely not saying that I'm the first to write one. There has been amazing SWANA playwrights who have written these stories, but we don't get them. There aren't enough to where they're like all over the place, and we're able
Yeah.
to like
I mean,
have
written is
them.
different than produced, right? As
Absolutely,
well. Yeah.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. And so yeah, but then in a way it isn't there because the stories aren't given the space and the time that they deserve.
Yeah.
And those intersectionalities are tricky because there's still a lot of work to do within our own communities about being able to tell these stories. So the fact that it's at the Goodman is like, it's just one little step closer, but it's
Yeah.
not the ending, right? It's like the
Yeah.
goal is to not have this play be among one of 5 plays in Chicago that have like queer SWANA people in them,
Sure.
you know? Yeah. I don't know if I just answered your question there. But
You did. No worries. No worries. But yeah, that's really great. That's really great. Yeah. You know, I was gonna say I finished it this morning. I was able to start it last night, and I didn't get a chance to finish it. And I
Are
just
you
was
watching
like,
the streaming?
yes, I was watching
Yeah.
the stream, and I as a person who's been doing these like script readings like bi-weekly with a theater group that I'm with, you know, I felt like very like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Now like a major theater company in Chicago is like putting out this type of art into the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, did you get to cast, or what? Or did you just submit it and then Goodman did everything else?
So I submitted it. And then I had a meeting about directors because in our proposals, we were able to propose directors that we wanted to work with, POC directors who we wanted to work with. So I had submitted 2 directors, both people I respect and love and trust. And it just, you know, we had a conversation about the 2. And then like Jonathan L. Green, who's the literary, I believe he's the literary manager at the Goodman, but he's also one of the 3 people heading this this initiative. Him and I chatted about the 2 directors. We figured out like which one was best for this project. And then me and the director, because Azad is my close friend, we were able to cast it together. So the Goodman
Nice.
was definitely instrumental in providing the resources, but ultimately it was between me and Azad who were able to, you know, I got to pick the director, together we got to pick the cast. And then yeah, so, and it was, I think it was all of those actors first time at the Goodman, which is amazing, and I couldn't ask for like a better situation. And
That
that's,
is
you know,
that is
and
awesome.
it was, you know, and they were all, the Goodman was really, really receptive to that too, especially Rachel Jimenez, who's the casting associate. She was really like gung-ho about like getting people who were new to the Goodman and bringing new voices, because that's what this whole initiative is for, right? It's like
I kind of wanted to, there's this, you brought up, you know, this ability to tell this story with all these with all this intersectionality to it, right? And the idea that there's not a lot being produced right now, and there's also the idea, I was thinking about like kind of how brave it is to like be out in the forefront telling a story like this at all times right now. I mean, but at all times, but especially right now, the idea that like you can have a story about people that are underrepresented, right, in multiple different ways, and kind of put it out there, and a lot of it, you know, has to do with your beliefs, right, and like about who you are. When you put when you make a play or make a statement, right, like about someone who's underrepresented, or there's racism against, or there's homophobia against, like it puts the onus on you to be brave. Like you're forcing yourself to be brave, but like you're forcing yourself to be brave by just submitting the play, right? I mean, just as a writer, let alone what the play is about. Like, do you have like an issue? Because I have an issue sometimes of, even when I can do something, you know, I can submit a play or I can go to an audition, like the bravery gets in the way. Like I'm very much like, I'm fighting the cowardice of like making a statement, of doing something bold. What do you do to like get through that part of you to like be so bold?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like what I'm gonna say is like, well, duh, of course, that's just like what you do, but it's something that I too have struggled with. Like
Yeah.
that's so real. Something one little thing that helps me is as somebody who's I think part of the reason why I wasn't a writer for many years is
Mhm.
because I was an editor. I was constantly editing my own work. And instead of writing
Oh,
something new, I would edit the 5 pages that I had. And then the next time I'd sit, I'd just change those 5 pages. And then I'd sit down again and change those 5 pages. And it's just like, of course, because like we have ideas. I can come up with 1,000 ideas, but it's like
yeah.
writing a story from beginning to end. That's like the tricky part. So I think once I realized that, and that's something that I think Calamity, who led the Jackalope Theater's playwrights lab, that's
Yeah.
something that like she gave me, truly
Mm.
like I felt like gave me intangibly like through that workshop was just being able to be like, okay, I'm
Hmm.
writing. It doesn't have to be good.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to change the world. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to change my life. I'm just writing 5 pages. And then that 5 pages becomes 10 pages. And those 10 pages also don't have to change the world. They don't have to change the scope of writing forever. Like, you know what I mean? There's this like
Right.
when we write something, we're putting it in a permanent way on paper, right?
Yeah.
And we're saying like that's it, it's on paper. But it's like it's not. It's like you just
It
print
it
out
does
another copy.
it does feel like that the end of the world, right?
Right. And I
Yeah.
feel like when I abandon that, that's also like oppressive systems working against us, right? Telling us that like there are only a few voices that like
Mm.
can do this. There's only like
Hmm.
certain people from a certain class or a certain status or certain like hierarchy can like fail or like allowed to fail and then like
Yeah.
retry and pick up again. And like that's what everyone does. We like you have
Yeah.
to write 10 bad pages to write another two good ones. Like
Yeah. But just in life too, right? Like, do you
of
find yourself
course.
like you're an editor as a writer, but you're also an editor as like a human, like an
Oh,
editor like
100%.
social media, an editor at like the grocery store, like,
A 100%. a hundred
how do you
percent.
it's so hard to be like free to be yourself. And like this is coming from talking about our bubble, like
Mm-hmm.
straight white dude, and I'm still like, well, I can't be this and I can't be that because like when there's so much more intersectionality there, like the bravery is like in just not editing yourself, right? Is something that
Yeah.
I can't even imagine, like be I wonder your take on that. Like is your do you think your bravery comes at a certain place, like from all the places in your life that you feel like you have to be brave about, like does that like fill in the cracks of the rest of your life? Does that shape you?
Hmm. I mean, I don't. Would you mind repeating that one more time?
Sure. All right. And you know what, I'm going to try and do it way better this time. All right, so there is a certain
Not great on the
bravery
fly.
there is a certain bravery to being yourself, right? When you are part of minority groups that have there's hate against,
Mm-hmm.
right? There are hate crimes against. So part of me feels that the bravery in being yourself and stating it, right? In the parts that are hard, I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if those also inform the bravery in the parts that are easy, right? Like writing a page of paper, like on down on the paper, right? It feels just as hard maybe as like something else, but really it's not like bravery on the same level of like of other parts of your life.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, I. That's a really good question, and I think it would take me a longer time to be able to come up with like a more eloquent answer. But I think
mhm,
one thing I can say is like these oppressive systems that we're talking about
mhm.
already do that for me. The second
Mm,
guessing and the telling me not to do something or telling me that I can't do it because I don't have this and I don't know this person and I haven't worked with that person and I haven't. But in realizing that I only like I'm making art for me. and I'm making it for my community. So if I'm being truthful to myself, and that goes for my life too, right? Like if I'm being truthful to myself and living the life that I want to live and working with the people that I want to work with and choosing what institutions I'm supporting, then like that kind of like carries through my life. Then I'm like happy with any work that I'm making, because again, it's not about the product. It's not about me changing the face of art with my work. It's just adding another perspective. So then if I start doing that to myself, then I'm just like letting, you know, like those systems oppress me because I'm listening to them and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, I don't, you know,
no,
like,
absolutely.
and it's what's happening in my mind now. It's like, I wrote this play. I think that the reading was like really successful, and I'll like what's happened is exactly what I want to happen, which is like a bunch of queer SWANA people have reached out to me and being like, thank you for writing that story. And like that to me is enough. If this play doesn't have a life past that, it is what it is. Like some queer SWANA people saw themselves in a play, which never happens. Most of those people haven't even seen a Zoom play. So they saw a Zoom play, they saw themselves in that Zoom play, and they wrote to me saying that they liked it and saw themselves in it. So like that's I'm fine with that being enough. And I'm hopeful that it doesn't have to be enough for this specific project, but if it was, like, that's cool.
Yeah. So you mentioned, right, the idea that you write for yourself, right, and for your community. Do you find the responsibility there for your community? Is that something that you do like truly take to heart in your writing?
Yeah, I don't speak for my community, but I write for them.
Yeah.
So I'm always, but that also just means that I have to know that I don't have an isolated experience as a queer SWANA person.
Yes.
Like there is someone else who has lived a completely different life as a queer SWANA person and can still relate to my lived experience as a queer SWANA person. So like, I'm not speaking for them, and I'm not saying like, this is how your life is too, but I'm saying this is how my life is. And like, if you see yourself in that, let's like talk about it. Like, let's come together and like make more work about it. So yeah, I very much like, this feels weird to say because I've literally written one play, but I'm realizing that through writing, I really value the collaboration in a new play development process. I don't think I ever want to write a play that is not influenced by any people around me. You know what I mean? Just like, this is a polished script. Here it is. Say my words. Don't tell me anything about what you feel. And like, let's just move on with it. Like this play is the way that it is right now, which it wasn't when I submitted it. It was a mess of a structure. And because of those 6 people in that room, 7 people with Azer, like, it was able to be specific to them and meaningful to them while also still maintaining its integrity as a script and as a story. But they, the people in that room influenced it, and I'd never have it any other way.
And that's part of the community. The community is multiple things, right? The community is the queer SWANA group of people. It's also the artist that you surround yourself with,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you're writing for them as well.
100%.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. I would love like the next playwright that I work with, hopefully like on a new project, to be like, yeah, you're part of the community that I'm writing for. And then I would just take advantage of it completely. I'd just be like, great, then give me this monologue and this monologue and this monologue.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think some writers would probably be really into that. Like, I think
so.
I mean, something that the Goodman did tell me after the reading was just like, because they work with a lot of new playwrights, and I think some of them are just like, yeah, you were just like really open and like open to feedback, open to people saying what they wanted. I mean, I didn't have anyone who was like, I just want more monologues. Thankfully, I don't know how to answer that, but I did have people like,
cast me in whatever you're doing next, and I guarantee you that there'll be one monster
John
in your
Anton,
community.
Avoid writing that.
No, don't write it down.
Working. But there were several times when people were like, hey, I think this moment would work better like this. And I'm like, great, you're a human. You have your own brain. I'm not the only brain here. And maybe that'll change. Maybe once I've written like 50 plays, I'm like, no, I like my style, and I like, and I'm in no way trying to be shady towards other writers, but that to me is like boring. I don't want to sit there by myself and like write a story with only my lived experience and then be like, okay, here you go. I mean, I think there's responsible ways to do that and irresponsible ways to do that, with certain experiences that I don't think I should ever write about, but like, if I know it and I feel comfortable writing it, like another brain can only help that process and that thing be more nuanced and more specific and more beautiful. And
and it also sounds like you're kind of like learning on the job right now, right? Because
100%.
It sounds like you're like maybe to me it sounds like you're like forming good habits while you're learning about the whole experience, right? I mean, 100%. And that's such a big thing about like just everything in life, right? Like you get shaped so much by that one habit that you didn't even realize you were doing until it's like kind of too late.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So were all these the actors that you got to work with, did you know all of them to some degree, or was there any people that you came across in the process of casting for this?
I knew three of them, and I knew four of them. They're all Chicago-based people. And then the other two, one is from LA. Well, one lives in LA from the East Coast originally, and the other one is a New York-based actor. So they're the two that I needed like the Goodman to find, I guess. With the other ones, I was able to just kind of like name people that I thought were right or that I wanted to work with, and and then but yeah, four of them are Chicago-based, which that's another like priority that I wanted. Most
part of the community,
Chicago-based, absolutely. It's just that one of the roles required, like a lived experience and identity that I didn't know folks here who had. So like we were trying to stay true to that in hiring that person, so that we weren't just like generalizing and So four of them were like close friends of mine, who just like kind of believed in the story or something, or wanted to give their
maybe they believed in you. Like the community does work both ways, right?
Absolutely. I agree. I agree.
So I mean, now that this is it doesn't sound like it's done, right? Because this is a play that maybe is going to have a lot of different lives, and something that, since you are so open to each room that you're in, will have a lot of changes. But do you have your eyes like set toward like a different goal that is involved with this play, or involved with something completely new at this moment? And what does that look like in when you're stuck in your apartment or your house? Right?
I know. Well, I think the one thing it does is that it does not give me an excuse not to write. That's for sure. I have nothing else to do, so it's like, if I set a deadline, like I guess I'm meeting it, because I have literally no excuses to give myself. But this play actually has already been selected, and I found out about this both at the same time, the Goodman, and it has been selected to have another reading in New York. I'm not allowed to say where because it hasn't been announced, but
congratulations.
Thank you. It's going to have like a week-long residency and then a performance, pending COVID stuff, because it's supposed to be in person. So pending still outside and socially distanced, but it is supposed to be in person, and I don't think they have an interest on making it like a Zoom festival. So if we can't do it, it's not going to happen. But
it's a festival, Mitch. We're going to research this. We're going to find out what it is.
So yeah, that's all you need.
Well, you know what? Let's do this. If there is new information out by the time we post it, we will post what festival it is in our description. So guys, look out for that just in case. And if it's not there, it's not our fault. It's just the information didn't come out.
I think it is supposed to be announced, like they told me, March or April. So I don't,
That's great.
yeah, so that's kind of one thing that I do know is happening with it. But again, yeah, I think the Goodman reading was really amazing because it helped me figure out what the structure needed to be of the play, like what the
Yeah.
play was actually about or like wanting to be about.
Yeah.
And I think with every room that it's going to go in with different people, it's just going to be like more nuances, more specificities, polishing things up, making sure that like there aren't, loose ends and,
Yeah.
But yeah.
When I watched this, it made me want to like really dive back into the like some research of like how fucking stupid the United States government was like in the early 2000s and before that, like with because it is based in the first half is based in Iraq, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it is at a time when there are a lot of protesting in the streets over the United States government and their relationship and, for lack of a better word, their terrorism on a community of people who, much like anywhere you go, right? Like military being involved military being involved in regular society does not
Mm-hmm.
mix, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially like
Yeah.
when the cause is not just. I found out great from the Pew Research Center, and this is a very sarcastic great, that 43% of Americans still think the invasion of Iraq was a good idea in terms of foreign policy.
This is my shocked face.
I know, right?
Oh,
but here, let's talk about like what is it? I don't know. We were talking about queer and SWANE identity and it being represented there, but like I was really thinking about like in TV, in film, in plays, like really having that identity of just regular ordinary citizens in a in a state or a country that is being invaded by the United States and what it means to those like members of society. When
Mm-hmm.
you were writing this, you didn't pull any punches on like what the United States representation was to that society, right? Like, and it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And you don't see that often. And that's another like point of bravery. And I was wondering what you were thinking about, like making sure that like part was in the play, like, and also,
Well,
sorry, go on, and I'll
no. Go
ask
ahead.
this second. It's an unrelated question, so hopefully we'll lead it to that. So I'm really sorry.
Yeah. No. It's all good. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I wasn't gonna pull any punches because
Because they
shit
didn't.
that I went through,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
was my life growing up. So
Mhm.
I wasn't gonna, I mean, I had already moved to America during the 2003 Iraq War,
Right.
but
It was
it
going
makes
on.
like the fact that it was that war does not make it any different than the war that I was born into or the war that
Mhm.
happened when I was a couple years,
Mhm.
So I think like America is inevitably another character in this play
Yeah.
because that's how it is in real life. That's how it feels. There's this resentment towards it, but there's also this like longing for it, and it
Yeah.
becomes like an something we idolize,
Mhm.
to something we get fooled into idolizing, thinking that it is
Mhm.
better there,
Mhm.
but they're the ones causing you the harm.
Yeah.
They're the reason why you want to leave where you are.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this love-hate relationship with
Yeah.
this
The
with
the
this
very
other.
the very idea that these three young people were out at a protest, right, about the involvement of the United States government on the Iraqi government,
right? And in the same scene, in the same sentence, you know, they're also going, well, you know, but it'll be better when we move to the United States.
If we just get her there,
if we just get her there. And you can see how like, you know, the gears are turning, right? Because it's not particularly about like, we love the United States so much we want to send people there. We love the people that we love the people that we send, because like if we have to hope, right, if we have to hope for something, we have to hope for our people, our family members, our community, so that maybe they can do better, you know, like for themselves, right?
Yeah.
But it almost feels how I felt in this. Now I want to use my I statement in this, because there's no like if I was wrong, it would just be right, because I have no connection to it. But how I felt, it's like you are using this like opportunity, right? But the opportunity is also punching you in the face, and the opportunity is saying, while punching you in the face, this is good for you, this is good for you, now follow. It was just like, this is infuriating.
That's a really good way to put it. That's exactly what it's like. And I mean, that's how it feels. That's like, and then you add another layer to that of like, when you're my age or younger, there's this need to pull away from the things you don't want to repeat as the next generation, but then also trying to have pride and heritage for who you are and where you come from, which I do. But I also, in that pride, recognize that there's some shit that should have been left back where it was. So like, it's like a constant pull. Like I am proud of where I'm from, and I have, you know, I have an attachment to this people and this place and this land and these memories. But I also have to recognize the things that weren't working and won't work for the future. And I don't think that I'm alone in that. I think everyone does that in their own way. But it's different when it's a place that in America, like that the general population in America is taught to either not like, or to ostracize, or to marginalize, like
to fear as well. I mean, to ostracize and to fear at the same time.
Absolutely. You know? Absolutely. And you still have pride for that place. You don't have pride for all the things that happen to it, but like, does every American have pride for all the things that the US government does? It's like
that's a hard no.
but you know what though, some motherfuckers hard yes, which is wild too. But just like the 43% who still think the Iraq invasion was justified and good, you know, who knows?
And the 50 whatever percent that voted for what's his face in 2016. I mean, it's like this, it's the same. Like state and place are different things. And if we were, I think the biggest like thing in SWANA narratives, mostly like young people and are trying to move away from, is that like we at this point all as like responsible people know that like a government does not determine your relationship to a place. Like that is one aspect of that place, but if everyone judged the country that they're from based on their governments, we would not. Everyone would be ashamed of every country.
I mean, and that goes along with like government and with like family, you know. I have a couple of like family members right now who are, you know, like pretty Trumpy, and it's gross, and I love them.
So do I.
And you know, right? But like, I'm really, really mad at you, but I also really, really love you. So like, how do we make these like things that are so far apart, like still make sense in you emotionally? Like, it's almost like you're on this like wild roller coaster of like, what does this mean to me? And like, how does this represent me? You know what I mean?
Yep.
In both good and bad. Yeah.
100%.
Oof.
And what am I saying by supporting it and by being like,
Mhm.
I am proud to be there, to be from there,
Mhm.
and then you like have to take a hard look at like what that means and what
Yeah.
who you're
Yeah.
telling.
Who?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
But that's got to be,
yeah.
do you ever feel that danger in, saying that proudly around the wrong group of people?
Not anymore. I don't
That's
give a
good.
shit what people think
Hell
about
yeah.
where I'm from. I mean, the Iraq US relationship
Mm.
is already a ridiculous one. So it's like I'm and that's really an interesting question to ask anyway about this play specifically, because
Mhm.
this play is not about politics.
No,
Our
It's not.
like it is inherently political because my existence and our existence is inherently political,
yeah.
but this
Yeah.
play is not about what governments do. Like it
Yeah.
is, oh, it's about the aftermath, but I'm not trying to like have a interesting or like smart debate about the Iraq US war. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm
Well,
also not trying to represent it
yeah.
in the way that most Americans view countries
Right.
at war to be.
Well, it's like you said. I mean,
Makes
you
sense.
said that America is a character in your play. It doesn't have any lines. It doesn't have
Right.
stage directions. But it's just like this. The political atmosphere of that event is a character in
Hmm.
your play,
Absolutely.
and that leads me to what I love so much about this play is the fact that, especially when you get to the second act and the family is overseas back at the United
Hmm.
States, and it's really more about the interpersonal relationships of these characters and the beauty of their souls and how their experiences have you know brought them here. And obviously some of those characters were young when they were in Iraq, and now they've really blossomed into adults and human beings over here, and how they
Hmm.
deal with that. And I would say, like, especially the whole plot lines of of Yusuf and Amin and their sexuality. Where did that is that more of a personal thing that you felt like you needed to add, or where did that inspiration to really add that plot line in come from?
um yeah, I mean, it's half of it is because I'm a queer person, and as I've primarily been an actor before writing, and I don't think I've ever played a queer character. Like maybe there was one I'm remembering, but I've never played a queer character. And then beyond that, being able to see queer SWANA representations, almost zero.
Mm-hmm.
So like that, I mean, that's like, it sucks that it has to be this way, but at some point in this play, I was like, what are the things that I want to see? What are the
Yeah.
things that I want to break? What stereotypes do I want to break? Um, what representation do I think is missing and I want to put into there? So then I thought of that, and then I was like, cool, I'll put this here and put this. So like half of it is like technical and just like,
Yeah.
okay, like what do I want to see on stage in person with my eyes? And then the other half is because of the way that the play is structured. I think it's less about each character's journeys and more about the archetypal role that
Mhm.
person like represents.
Mhm.
Because you have people switching from like the older generation to the younger
Right.
generation and from act 1 to act 2,
Yeah.
you don't have as much time to spend on each specific people, because then that's like 8 characters, right? But I found a way, I was trying to find a way to like make each pair, like each track, be like fulfilling one archetype of like a
Yeah.
SWANA family.
I mean, it reminded me of like Cloud9, the play. How, yeah,
Yeah, a lot
they,
of people
yeah.
have said that to me. I have seen that play at
Mhm.
ISU,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
but I don't remember it. I don't remember what it's about, but I remember loving it. I remember, and it's probably because of the shifting of time and
Yeah.
Yeah.
those. Yeah, I think the Yusuf Amin thing was just kind of, I wanted to see how it played out.
Sure.
And then it ended up being like a really great conversation starter in the room. So it was like, okay, maybe this needs to stay. I also
Yeah.
like that it's not like about them being gay. It's not,
Mhm.
it's just about like, do we want to date? do we like each other enough to date after not
Yeah.
seeing each other after not being in each other's lives for so long. But yeah, I mean, another little like play character thing is because those two characters don't get to be with each other in the first act because
Yeah.
one is straight and the other one has like some subtle longing for the other. So in the next generation, those two like those two roles can like finally end up together because,
That's
which is
beautiful.
not really like a thing I'm trying to like hammer over the people the head with, but like just another little.
Yeah, you get to do it because you wrote it. I mean, right?
Right.
Do you have any like writing inspiration though? Like, and anybody that like we can, or people that if you want to grow your community through this podcast, which is a horrible idea to do it. You basically could have just had this conversation with the wall, but
I think it's more than that.
but if you want people to like, if you were looking for someone to read something or a play or book or whatever that you would be like, this is awesome because now we can have that 5-hour conversation I've really wanted to about this like book and this topic, what would it be?
I know that there are a couple SWANA playwrights like Rajiv Joseph, who's written like Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo. He wrote Guards at the Taj, and that play, and I understudied for that play at Steppenwolf, and that his play Guards at the Taj, which is a 2-person play, like extremely like inspired me. And that was just like I think it was like 3 years ago that I was an understudy in that. But
Yeah,
it's like totally the the style and the type of material that I want to explore as a writer. He does an amazing job of like being able to blend like history and current life into one complicated mess of like heart-wrenching emotion and comedy.
yeah.
He's a writer that I remember like reading his stuff from like high school, and being like, oh, a play about Baghdad. That's never read that. Which really that play isn't about Baghdad. But anyways, he's one writer. Another writer who's a SWANA person in my community, his name is Abbas Salem. He wrote a play called Mosque for Mosque, and now he's written like 4 plays or something. Like he's just on a roll. But I was in that first reading that we just did, like no company, nothing. We just got together, rehearsed it, presented it, and it was insanely received. It was we sold out like twice, even though there was no selling, there was no paying. It was just like free. But that was an amazing, and that happened like at around the same time that he was going to do a reading of his play, and the same group of friends we were going to do a reading of my play. But then we did his, and then the pandemic hit, so then it's just like my play never happened. But he's another person that I was just like, okay, cool. Like when you're able to see someone doing what you want to do, and they also speak to you and your identities, it's just like, I mean, there's nothing like it. We've all heard it before, but like I've seen a bunch of successful playwrights and worked with them, but I had never seen a queer SWANA playwright and worked with him and have him have an amazing reception to his play. And then now, like Steppenwolf is doing a reading of it. So it's just like, it's that representation that you can like touch that makes the difference.
And it grows that community and the opportunity for those communities as well, right? Like every single like little success is like
is
big
for
success,
the greater
right?
whole.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you guys are like it's cool that you guys are like working in tandem, like you guys have plans together. And
it's just happening to be around the same time. I mean, I think he's definitely been a writer for a lot longer than me, but it's there's this shift happening in theater, I think, and specifically in Chicago theater. And we're not, his play is actually the next Future Labs, but it's a different play. It's called The Secretaries, but it is the next February Future Labs. So definitely check that out too. Like plug that in for queer SWANA representation. But I mean, I think things are shifting and people are realizing that we're not, on the census, we're white others, but we're not actually white others. We are our own people.
Oh,
And, and
wait.
we have our own cultures and languages.
What have we been
and
talking
customs.
about?
I know. That's a running joke with me and a couple of friends of mine, actually, who are like, what, she's
like it.
Cypriot, and we would just call each other white others because that's what a lot of SWANA people did for a very long time because of racism and effects of colonialism.
Yeah, colonialism.
A sigh.
You know, I mean, I've like, so for our listeners, I've known Martin. I mean, wow, gosh, when were we at ISU together? That was 8 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that.
Don't age us.
Wow.
But my earliest memories of you is you were, very inclusive. I think you were older than me, I think, by a year in school, and you came in. You're very warm and embracing to young actors of all colors and and genders and sizes. And I know my earliest memory of working with you is we did like a Broadway review of some sort.
Review. The infamous review.
And
it's infamous?
It's infamous.
To some people.
Tell me more.
Some people.
And like I just remember being like coming home and like my mom being like, "Oh, what are you working on?" And it's like, "Well, not in a main stage show or anything like that, but I'm working on this really cool review." She's like, "What does it mean?" I'm like, "Well," and it's just like I remember being so excited about doing stuff like that, and so like seeing you being able
first stage was cool.
Yeah, but seeing you do something like this where you're you're trying to shine light on a community. I think like this makes like, so when I saw you do this, I had to get a hold of you because I was just like, this is exactly the Martin I know.
And I really appreciate that. I mean, this has been a lovely conversation. And I also think about that time doing the free stage stuff was some of my favorite memories at that school.
I think it was most people's favorite memories.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. It was, I mean, I think I've recently started to like own up to the fact, but I think it's always been in me that like and this is probably what makes me like a really bad like business person artist. It's just like I'm not always interested in like my career. Like I'm just all about the next generation. And like unfortunately in this capitalistic world that we live in, that means that you have to establish your own self to be able to like do that. Not that like you being a year younger than me meant that you needed like mentorship, but like right. That's my shit. It's just like making people feel like
you invest in others.
There is space for all of us. This is not a competition, and this industry pits us out against each other 100%. As if it is all one big competition, and it's not. Like I care less about succeeding and being like the most successful and known artist than like being like, hey, you're new to this, like come, feel welcome, feel like wanted and valued, because you are and you should be, and we should all made to feel that way. And also maybe like I'll give you some more information on that horrible experience that I was talking about earlier, but like that's the reason why I was just like, I don't want to be an artist anymore. If this is what that means, I mean, it's just like, I was an intern and I was not treated well, but like you can only be treated so well when you are already on the
right.
bottom of the totem pole, right? Like there's only so well you can treat someone who you are not really paying and compensating properly and like doing a lot of labor for you. And so in that sense, I was like, if this is what art is, I don't want to do it. And maybe this isn't for me. And then obviously I stepped into the real world and was like, okay, it doesn't have to be that way.
And it's frustrating that someone would make you feel like that's what art is, right? Especially when you found a way to make art what you want it to be.
Well, that's when I started to like breathe. That's when I started to be like, oh, I'm not gonna fail if I don't do it like you. I just might like get there slower, but that's fine for me. Like I don't need to you know, email 100 directors every month and like stress myself out about auditions and being like, I need to be seen every day or else I'm
Right.
not going to become a successful actor. It's like, I'm going to work on the projects that I want to work on.
Mhm.
A play has to be good for me to want to
Mhm.
do it.
Mhm.
I don't want to work with that person, so I'm not going to spend my time being, you know, in a toxic environment, being with someone I don't want to, you know, it's like all these things that we're like told don't matter because if you want to do it, you should do everything. You should do. That's something we were even told at that school. It's like, if you don't only want to be an actor and you don't live and breathe and die acting, then you're not going to be an actor. And it's like,
That's
what
so
if I want to
frustrating.
be a human first? Like,
Yeah.
I want to live a life.
Right.
Acting is my job.
Yeah. And like just being an artist, right? Like I feel like we have a similar sensibility where it's like if I know the project isn't particularly fulfilling artistically, I cannot bring myself to do it. And maybe
Absolutely.
that's detrimental like to the career part of me, but like at the
Only
same
if you make
time,
it. I honestly
exactly.
think only if you make it that way. Like,
Yeah, the artist like in me would still die, right? Like,
mhm,
it's okay to have your own standards and for them to be completely different than anybody else's, and for it
absolutely.
not to make you feel like you don't have a place in theater, in acting, writing, because you don't like hold their standards for treating people like shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree.
We were just having a conversation with actually a different interviewer about like how um he did one show where like the room for the callback was really nice, and like really welcoming, and how shocked he was that it was such a unique experience, how like nice, it was to
Yeah.
be nice with people. And it was like his first experience like doing that. And I just feel like, if we want artists to be open, which is like where all the creativity comes from, is like from people who are allowed to be open, right? Or allow
Yeah. Well,
themselves, right? Like, then you need
we're
to like,
told that that's how we make it. And in a
yeah,
way, it makes us powerless to imagine a different world. Because
yeah,
if you're told if you're told in school that you have to live, breathe, and die on this one art form, and then
mhm,
you leave and enter the real world, and you're made to feel like if you don't, you won't succeed, then of
mhm,
course we're not going to imagine the world where we can do it under our own, you know, with our own agency. Like,
mhm,
I choose what this career is for me. And when we're young, we're influenced. Like anybody that comes and says, I'm the artistic director of whatever, you're like, mm-hmm, yep, what do I do? Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Okay. Get new headshots? Cool, cool, cool. Sounds good. Okay. I'm just gonna spend another $700 on pictures of my face. Like, that's fine. It's just like a cycle of
yeah, yeah. That's so. I mean, do you think that? And I don't want to discount the experience that you had. Do you think that that experience was like bad enough that made you realize it, or do you think it was like a
oh,
slow
100%.
real? Yeah, but do you think it was a unique? It's not bad enough. Do you think it was like a uniquely bad situation, or is that like something that like you see going on everywhere that like maybe you were at
Oh,
least able to present to yourself as like, actually this is how I get my own agency.
it's everywhere.
It's
I
everywhere.
think I mean, you're talking about the like internship I was talking about.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's everywhere. Unpaid
Mm-hmm.
and internships run rampant in the
Mm-hmm.
theater, just in general in theater,
Mm-hmm.
because for a lot of new people outside of school, that is the only way they can have an opportunity to actually act and not be
Mm-hmm.
like a set builder
Mm-hmm.
trying to act. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, come and do this tech and then you'll be
Yeah.
an understudy, you
And
know.
then
So in that
maybe
way,
we'll give you a space to even just audition, right? For
exactly,
the
if you
next
build our
one.
sets,
Yeah.
exactly, which is somebody else's whole job, you know.
Yeah. They went to
So
school for that.
exactly. And so yeah, we're already not given enough opportunities, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's this double-edged sword of consistently being told that you are the reason that that theater can survive, and you're like, oh great, I'm really like important to this, and then you're like, oh, that's because you don't pay me. Like you're able to survive having me here because you're not paying me. And you think because I'm 18 or not 18, I'm stupid, like 22 out of college and I don't have
So
any
you can
other
drink.
connections, you can exactly like you can take advantage. That's what you're actually saying, is that we can take advantage of you because you don't know better yet. And you don't know that you deserve more than $50 to $75 a week.
Yeah.
No matter what the other, like, I don't care if you're having me understudy the most incredible Broadway star. Like, you have to pay people. And that like
Apparently
that becomes
not.
a lot of like, new actors' experiences, that like that's
Yeah.
their experience with theater, is like being unvalued, overworked, easily replaced and replaceable, or feeling like that they are. And so then that perpetuates toxicity when you're in a major regional theater and an artistic director does something horrifying to you, and you're like, oh, that's fine because at least I'm in the room. At least they said yes to me.
Yeah, it's that opportunity punching you in the face again.
Ayo.
Callback, baby. I'm a writer now. I'm a writer.
That's why y'all are here.
I mean,
making connections. Yeah,
there it is.
To hop on that really quick. I mean, like I left the, acting and making that like my primary career because I just was like, I can't, I just knew too many people that were just getting taken advantage of, and I knew too many people like, and I just didn't, that life didn't appeal to me anymore. Like it took the fun out of performing, and, I was able to, direct my efforts and my education to an art form that I feel like, I was able to still do theater when the right opportunities came across.
Absolutely.
Like when your review, when like one of the Broadway reviews that we did together, like when that came across, it's like, you know what, I will do that because that's really fun. I'm going to do that because that's what I want to do. And it's going to give me a chance to express myself. And so,
Art being fun.
Yeah, right.
That was such a beautiful experience. I mean, in hindsight, kind of problematic too, but we didn't know better.
We did not.
We learned and we moved on. But
was it
that
recorded?
was wonderful. No, I don't think so. Thankfully, it is gone.
Good.
Problematic only in the ways that we weren't informed enough and given the right resources to not have been problematic. So it wasn't like an intention thing. It was more like us forming our voices as artists and being like, what stories do we tell and not tell? And what is mine to direct and what is not mine to direct?
And there's like this idea of like the word problematic, right? Or like even like, let's say racist. Like the idea of those words being so hurtful, I think is silly. When you are called like racist or problematic, all it is
when most of us are problematic and racist.
Right. Like all that is the opportunity to grow, right? So like the fact that you guys did something that like was problematic, right? Like for one reason or the other, like I liked that it was just so openly like said. I thought it was, I just wanted to remark on that because I just thought it was really nice that like someone just like said it. It was like, and it was messed up.
We weren't trying to be, obviously, like we, and that's, but I agree with you. I think that becomes like a point of like defense for a lot of people, thinking that like they can't. This happens a lot also. Like I've had my fair share of white people reach out to me and say like,
oh, we actually go by white, not white. That's problematic of you.
White.
Sorry.
White. Excuse me. Like reach out to me and be like, yeah, like thank you for this. Like if I like post something and it's like, thank you for this work, or like thank you for what you do. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I'm making the status. It came out of my brain, which means that if you're feeling some type of way, I probably also felt that type of way. And most non-Black folks have a lot of shit to undo, redo. So it's like, I'm not sitting here telling you I don't have any problematic tendencies or thoughts, or that because I'm brown that I can never be, have like a blurred vision about something. Like I for sure can, and I'm not doing any work that you can't do. You know, it's like
Yeah.
we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
when you see like racism or problematic things as like something to need to defend against,
I mean,
that is when things become problematic and
that's like
racist.
that's the first step to like the wrong road, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Martin,
So in a way, it's like, yeah.
this was an absolute pleasure.
Yes, please.
Thank
Y'all
you
too.
so
Thank you
much.
so much for this. This has been so amazing. My first podcast experience.
Amazing.
I will say it was great.
Do you think it's going to be your last podcast experience?
I hope not. I mean, I don't really.
Great.
choose
We
that, I
didn't
guess.
destroy it. We didn't ruin it.
No, not at all. I'm excited. I mean, I don't think any other podcast is gonna want to talk to me, but I'm down.
But
I'm ready.
so for
We got
so-
you young in your career.
Yes. So for our listeners and for people out there, Layalina, it's you can go to the Goodman website to look for information, and obviously once we find out more about this potential New York opportunity, we'll hopefully share that information. Everybody go watch it. It's a beautiful play.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Martin.
you.
And you can
Thank
see
you.
Martin's headshot, which is real nice. I'm looking at it right now.
There is-
$700,
Oh,
right?
No, that's funny. That picture a friend took for me because my headshot, my acting headshot, doesn't look like me anymore. And I was like, I'm not gonna spend a lot of money. And also,
Hell
like
yeah.
writers don't really get pressured to have like super profesh headshot. So I was like, I'm using a photo that I like of myself. So
It also looks great.
and
so
the Goodman was
awesome.
supportive.
Cool.
Thank you.
That's all you need,
I
right?
appreciate that.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, guys, for listening. And thank you, Martin. It's been an absolute pleasure.
But don't.
How about that?
How about that? I love Martin. Big fan.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan too. It was
Big
nice to get
fan.
to know. Nice to meet him.
But hey, all of our New York friends, including John himself,
Hey.
go June 22nd through the 26th in New York.
Yep.
You should check
Yep.
out this festival. You
Yeah.
should go
Check
see
out
this.
the festival.
You should go see this play in person.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually gonna be there. So for any of our just fans, you know, come get a signature for me. You know, whatever you need.
He'll be
But
there.
it's not
ready and
about me.
willing.
It's not gonna be about me. It's gonna be about Martin. So just
Absolutely.
when I say no, that means no.
If anything, if we can get people to go watch this play, if that's what this podcast is able to do this week, that will be a success in my eyes.
It's a really excellent play. And it's a play that the themes, the message, it's so cool to be able to see the beginnings of it and to see how it moves through the culture and through, you know, a changing of scenery and Martin growing as an artist to see where it's going to end up and wind up and how it'll be. Yeah. But
You guys know the deal. If you like what
Yeah.
you're listening to, hit that subscribe button.
hit it.
Leave us a comment. Leave us a
Yep.
like.
Yep.
Get in contact with us.
Yep.
We promise we won't take a break for a little bit again.
And use the referral code 2PEC for Smooth My Balls. That's not real. You can't use that.
It won't work.
It won't work.
If you try it and it works, I'll be amazed. And if so,
I don't think we'll be getting the money from it.
well, then in that case, get me one. All right,
Mitch,
guys.
you need one?
I mean, if it
We
co-
gotta message these people.
I guess so.
Guess so.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.
See you next week. Bye.